So earlier today, I was scrolling through Tapology, just looking at the new UFC 300 card and the announcements that came with it, and I noticed that Tapology has changed the name of the UFC card taking place in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, to UFC 301. Now, it is worth noting at the time I recorded this video, which is the 17th of January, that this has not been confirmed. It seems to be a rumor, I guess, or maybe Tapology knows something that we don't. But UFC 301 is apparently going to be taking place in Brazil in Rio de Janeiro, and I thought it would be worth making a video about. I know I have already made a video about this card being in Brazil and what it could look like, but I think this is video worthy because it would mean, if this truly is the case, that the most likely guy to headline the card would be Alex Pereira, and that would mean that he very likely would not be on UFC 300. So maybe we already have a UFC 300 main event, and maybe it really is Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad, which is a little bit of a disappointing main event. I'm not going to lie to you guys. But if they can stack the card just a little bit more, I think I could come around to the fact that Leon Edwards versus Muhammad is the UFC 300 main event and not Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill or Magomed Ankalaev. That's what I'm going to talk about for this card here, because obviously being in Brazil, they're more than likely going to need a fighter from Brazil to headline the card. And I feel like there's no other bigger name in Brazil other than Charles Oliveira to headline a pay-per-view in Brazil than Alex Pereira himself. And he's already got a couple of potential opponents that would be suitable for this card, because of course we know Ramadan ends 4 days before the UFC 300 card. I've been saying Ramadan is during UFC 300. That has been wrong. It ends 4 days before UFC 300. And I feel like a fighter like Magomed Ankalaev just probably wouldn't really want to go into a camp during Ramadan for his first proper title fight, if that makes sense. And also, it works for Jamal Hill apparently as well, because Jamal Hill is injured and maybe he just can't return in time for UFC 300. But if you gave him an extra month or an extra 6 weeks, I believe is the difference between these cards. It's actually not. It's only about 3 weeks difference. But either way, you give him an extra 3 weeks or so, and he's got the extra time. He's got the time to prepare for a title fight, because at the end of the day, in my personal opinion, I feel like Jamal Hill is the most deserving title contender there is at 205 pounds. I know a lot of people, including Magomed Ankalaev himself, are saying he's the contender. At the end of the day, Jamal Hill, he held the belt. In fact, you could still pretend he's holding the belt. Jamal Hill is the champion. He vacated the title, and then Alex Pereira fought for the vacant title. So the champion that vacated his title has to fight for the title next. You know what I mean? And then Pereira versus Ankalaev can take place. Because at the end of the day, although people love Ankalaev, Ankalaev is 1-1-1 in his last 3 fights. And one of those was a draw, which he could have lost because, in my opinion, Jan won rounds 1, 2, and 3. And maybe people give him a 10-8 in the 5th round. And it was a no contest to Johnny Walker, which I guess doesn't really count. But at the end of the day, Jamal Hill gets the title shot next. In my eyes, that's what I would do. So maybe they do Jamal Hill taking on Alex Pereira, UFC 301 main event, and maybe they throw in a second title fight because they have another champion on this card, potentially, that they could do. Or at least they have a champion that said he wants to fight in Rio de Janeiro because that's his hometown. He was born in Rio de Janeiro, and I believe he still trains. I thought he trained in the USA, but maybe not. Maybe he still trains in Rio. Either way, Alejandro Pantoja himself has said that he wants to fight in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and there's potential opponents for him as well, and they include, of course, Brandon Moreno, Amir Albazi, or Manel Kape. I'll tell you who I would rather see him fight right now, to be honest, and that is Manel Kape, but I'll talk about that in a second. It could be Brandon Moreno. You've got to consider the time that this fight is on. It's on in, I believe this is May, the 5th month. The way that they do the numbers and the days is not the same way we do it in New Zealand. We do it the other way. So 5th month, which is May or April. How dumb am I? Oh my god, I'm literally studying engineering mechanics right now. I don't know how to read months. Anyway, yeah, the world's in real safe hands. So yeah. Anyway, Alejandro Pantoja could take on Brandon Moreno. And Brandon Moreno is fighting soon, and he's taking on other than Brandon Royval, and in my opinion, he's going to beat Royval, and he does that in February. So that means that he would have about 2.5 months to fight Alejandro Pantoja for this card. Or it could be Amir Albazi. who recently pulled out of a fight against Brandon Moreno, of course, and now you could just give him a title shot, which you might say that doesn't make sense. The UFC's done it before. They'll probably do it again, to be honest with you. So maybe they could give Amir Albazi the fight against Alejandro Pantoja, or they could give it to Manel Kape. Now, do I think Manel Kape is deserving of a title shot right now, coming off the win against Felipe Dos Santos and missing weight against Mateus Nicolau? I'm going to say no, to be honest. But it makes the most sense to me. And the reason why it makes the most sense to me is he's already fought Moreno and he's already fought Royval. We need some sort of fresh matchup. And you could just say, well, why don't they do it against Amir Albazi? I mean, yeah, that does make sense as well when I say it that way. But Amir Albazi pulled out of this fight with a neck or a back injury, someone in my comments told me. So that could be too serious for him to fight at this time. So it's either Moreno or Kape, in my opinion, unless Albazi is healthy. I would rather see Pantoja fight Albazi or Kape just because he's fought Moreno 4 times now. 3 times now, I think, actually. Or has he fought him 4 times? Hold on. He lost to Pantoja. Okay, he's only fought him 3 times, but he's beaten him 3 times. We don't need to see Moreno fight him for a 4th time, especially right now. I mean, just give him a little bit of time, right? So I'm thinking Pantoja versus Albazi or Kape. Let me know what you think of that in the comments below. That was a bit of a mess when it comes to the Pantoja side. Yeah, so I'm studying natural resources engineering, and I'm going to be designing water systems for new developments in cities. So, hey, if the plumbing doesn't work, just blame someone else. Oh no, why can I not read a calendar? I can read a calendar. Why can I not read the numbers, man? It's just the opposite to what I have in New Zealand. Like, this would be the 4th of the 5th in New Zealand. You know what I mean? Like, that makes way more sense to me, but oh well, you guys do what you guys want to do. I won't start a debate in the comments. I'll see you guys in the next one. Let me know what you think of that video. I mean, I just kind of put it together. I thought it was worth talking about. A Brazil pay-per-view. It's pretty cool. Anyway.